Congressman Latourette, thank you again for joining us. The House and Senate are out of session this week, but I wanted to ask you, before we get into a conversation about some of the politics that's going on right now, what do you expect the Hill is going to take up when they come back from Memorial Day recess?
That's a great question. Before I answer it, I have to tell you that the broadcast we did last week was watched by someone in the executive office of the President at the White House. And so just in case, Mr. President, how do you do? So anyway.
And if you're angry about anything, it's all him. I'm just asking the questions.
Don't even worry about that IRS thing. It's fine. What's looming is, of course, the debt crisis and the debt limit and how you get out of it. And so a lot of focus is beginning to shift. There's 11 working groups over Ways and Means that are working on tax reform, if the signal's ever given to do tax reform. The Republican House passed a prioritization bill that they would prioritize what bills to pay and what bills not to pay if the country goes into default. So I think most of the month of June and probably July, before the August recess, is going to be consumed with budget and appropriations.
Well, I thought this would be a good time to talk a little bit about politics. It seems like that we just had the election, but it also seems like we're kind of in the endless campaign cycles. And there was obviously news made this week that Republican firebrand Michelle Bachmann announced that she was not going to seek a fifth term. And my question is, what does that say about the continuing influence of the Tea Party? Obviously, she was a founder of the Tea Party caucus in the House. Or is this more about her in particular, not so much about the Tea Party?
It's probably more about Congresswoman Bachmann, in that in her presidential runs, there's a couple of investigations going, and although they don't link her directly to wrongdoing at this moment in time, the people around her are being investigated by various agencies, the FEC and the Ethics Committee in the House and so forth and so on. The other thing is she has the most conservative and Republican district in the state of Minnesota, yet she only bested the same fellow that was going to run again in 2014 by 5,000 votes. And she is, because of her sort of outspoken style, she's a target. And so that's going to be a very expensive race. And you know, when you sort of draw things up, you'd rather leave on your own terms than, be given a pink slip. And so I think she made a political calculation, and also these investigations may bog her down. At the end of the day, I don't think it does anything to the Tea Party movement. There are people, Steve King of Iowa, Mick Mulvaney of South Carolina, Jimmy Jordan of Ohio, who all can step in and lead the Tea Party caucus in the House, and they won't miss a beat. And if all this other stuff works out, I would not be surprised to see Michelle Bachmann pop up on one of the networks with her own show.
Kind of like Sarah Palin did on Fox News.
Right.
I guess we shouldn't feel that bad for Michelle Bachmann.
I don't feel bad for her.
Now, talking about the upper chamber, Republicans were kind of salivating at the prospects of flipping the chamber in 2014, kind of the same way that they were salivating about the prospects of flipping the chamber in 2010 and 2012, and it hasn't happened. And it seems like that there have been a couple of instances so far of kind of high-profile recruiting misses, trying to find candidates in Iowa and Nebraska and other places that should be competitive races for Republicans. Does this pose a problem, candidate recruitment for Republicans in the Senate?
Yeah, at the moment it does. But just to go back, we don't call the Senate the upper chamber. We call it the Senate, first of all. And actually the standing sort of observation in the House is when one of our members would get elected to the Senate, the IQ of both chambers would go up. So, but yeah, clearly, if you look at some of these potential pickups and you look at the number of Democrats who are running in red states that were carried by Mitt Romney in 2012, there are some missed opportunities, but it's early yet, and the opportunity to find those right candidates and conduct elections that are serious, I think, still exists. And I think the Republicans are going to be okay in the Senate when it comes to finding the right people. They'll all be competitive races.
Well, before we get to the midterms, we've got gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey. Are either of these races or both of these races the kind of proverbial canary in the coal mine? Should we read something into these results, or are they kind of standing on their own and we shouldn't interpret what happens there as some indicator of what's going to happen in 2014?
Yeah, I don't think New Jersey is going to mean much because Chris Christie, as a result of his efforts in Hurricane Sandy and a whole bunch of other things. I mean, he's cruising along at about 70%. He's throwing footballs at Atlantic City with the president, and life is pretty good for Chris Christie. And he had his stomach stapled, so he's going to be thinner and all that other business. So there's no tea leaves in New Jersey. In Virginia is interesting because it went for the first time, for a Democrat in President Obama in a long time, and now it's sort of righted itself. You have the Attorney General of the state, Ken Cuccinelli, who is a pretty right-wing individual, firebrand, and you have Terry McAuliffe, the former head of the Democratic National Committee and big fundraiser for President Clinton. And Virginia really has become two Virginias. There's Northern Virginia, and then there's the rest of Virginia. And Democrats do very well in Northern Virginia, which is closest to Washington, and Republicans do well in other parts. But again, too, you really have, I don't know if there's anything that's going to sort of send a signal for the next presidential race as a result of the governor's race in Virginia. It is going to be a clash of ideologies, but I think maybe I'd leave it at that. More telling is going to be what happens to control of the United States Senate, or the upper chamber, as you like to call it, and the House of Representatives.
Okay, so crystal ball time again.
Yeah.
Here we go. What is more likely to happen? Is it more likely that the Democrats will overcome the historical odds and flip the House and take back over the House, or is it more likely that Republicans will overcome some of their challenges in recruiting candidates and take back the Senate, or is neither of those things likely to happen and we're likely to be at status quo in 2014?
Well, just based upon the number of seats, open seats, and seats they have to defend and everything else in the House of Representatives, it would be a miracle for the Democrats to regain control of the House of Representatives. Now, miracles happen, but the other overlay that you have is the President Obama's 6-year itch. And if you go back over time, I think there's only one exception, and that was President Clinton in 1998. His party actually picked up 5 seats, but if you look at President Obama his party lost over 60 seats in his first midterm. President Bush lost control of the Congress during his 6-year itch. President Nixon, of course, in Watergate, and President Clinton lost control of the Congress in his first midterm. So you got 6-year itch, you got a whole lot of factors that make it near impossible. Now, I think that the Republican Party, if they can field the proper candidates and if they stop this sort of savage primary system, these jungle primaries where Manchurian candidates pop up and want to talk about legitimate rape and things that really turn off center-right voters, there's a better than even shot that Harry Reid can be retired as the majority leader of the Senate.
Thank you very much, Congressman.
Good to see you.